All right, the draft preview podcast continues here. We just had our prospect breakdown with Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Now we're going to do our annual tradition. We're going to do the full mock draft for round one. Joining me today, as always, is the great Alan Austin. Alan, how are you?
Mike, good to be back. Our favorite time one of our favorite times of year, the NFL draft. So it's going to be exciting. This is one of the more exciting top half of the drafts I can remember in a long time.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of craziness going on here, and a lot. Potentially, we have quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, 4. If everything breaks right, there's a lot of receivers. There's a lot of tackles. There's a lot of big names.
A lot of big names, and our Jets and Giants are once again in the top 10.
Yeah,
so the Giants face that daunted, PTSD-inspiring 6th pick.
Yep.
So here we go.
Yeah, I believe the last one they had was Evan Neal.
We had Evan Neal at 5, but we took Jones at 6, which is shudder.
Yeah, shudder here. So just to set up the order here, the mock draft, like Alan and I alternated picks. I did odds and evens with one exception. I took the Jet pick and I gave him 11 in exchange. So just to be clear, we did not do trades in the mock because it would been too complicated, but we will discuss at points in the draft where we think the trades will happen because we know this 1 to 32 is not staying in this exact order.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll start at the top here. We'll start with the quarterbacks. 1, 2, 3. Caleb Williams, Chicago. Jaden Daniels to Washington. Drake May, New England. That feels like in some combination 2 and 3 makes sense here. So what are your thoughts on these 3 quarterbacks in terms of where they're going to go?
Well, I think Caleb's obvious. Washington, if they're choosing between solely Daniels and May, I think Daniels is the obvious pick. I'm not sure how serious they are on McCarthy, but I don't think McCarthy's worth the number 2 overall pick. So I went with Daniels for Washington. I just think there's a bigger upside, more athleticism, and I think that's what Washington feels they need to compete in the NFC. So I think they go Daniels.
Yeah, I think the home run pick there if you're Washington is Jaden Daniels. I feel like Drake May has a solid floor where I think he's going to be a good starter, potentially be a great. Jaden Daniels, I think, yes, he could miss and be a bust, but like if he hits, you might have like Lamar Jackson light for Washington.
I think he is the pick. I think May has fallen down a lot of guys' draft boards as we get closer after more studying of the tape, but I don't think May is going to fall out of that top 3, so I go Daniels too.
Yeah, that sounds good here. Nope, this is, again, no trades in this mock draft here. So we have 4 and 5 a pair of receivers. Arizona taking Marvin Harrison Jr., the Chargers taking Malik Neighbors out of LSU after they let all their weapons go in the offseason here. I think receiver makes sense for both of these teams, but this could very well, I think this is where we're going to see the first trade of the draft. One of these 2 teams can get moved down.
I agree. Vikings have 2 first-round picks. I think they are surely going to be one of the teams that trades into the top 5.
Yeah, I think the Vikings could be in the mix there. Denver could go up for a quarterback. They don't really have on their roster. The Raiders have an option here. And your team at 6, I know Joe Shane has said, I'm not willing to go up yet, but like, it could be a smokescreen.
Could be. I mean, at the end of the day, as a Giant fan, I'm not getting my hopes up. There are 2, since we're talking about the Giants now, I'll say a couple things. One, when you took Neighbors at 5, my stomach dropped because if anything happens on that night where we're not taking one of the big quarterbacks, I want it to be Neighbors. Since you took Neighbors, I went with Joe Alt. Few reasons. I said I want the Giants to take one of the big quarterbacks. I don't want that quarterback to be J.J. McCarthy. And if it is J.J. McCarthy, I want it to be because they traded their pick and slid back a bit. I don't want McCarthy at 6. It rings of Daniel Jones all over again. I know they're different types of quarterbacks, but my personal rankings, if we're not counting Daniels and Williams, I like Penix, and I think they can get him later on in the draft. So if we can get Drake May, we take him. But I don't want McCarthy at this spot. Neighbors would be who I want. If we can't get Neighbors, Evan Neal is a revolving door at right tackle, so we've got to improve, and I think we go Joe Alt.
Interesting pick, too, because the Giants spent all that money in the offseason on the free agent line. They brought in Ellen Munor. They brought in, I think, one other lineman to shore up their group. So this would be a good pick, though, to get them insurance on the line.
I think Joe Alt's already better than all of them, so all of the insurance picks. So if you can improve the line with the best available guy in the draft at that spot, I think you got to do it.
Yeah, we'll go back to the Chargers a second as well, and the Cardinals with the picks here. Harrison feels like the safest pick outside the quarterbacks. Neighbors, obviously. The Charger thing is interesting because the Chargers obviously trade away Keenan Allen. They cut Mike Williams for salary cap reasons. They don't really have anything for for Herbert to throw to here. And we know this is sort of the same dilemma the Bengals faced a few years ago when they had Burrow and they said, do we get the guy for him to catch passes or protect him? And they went with the pass catch. I feel like that's what the Chargers will do.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They need the weapons. Herbert needs people to throw to. Well, there were a lot of memes going around after they traded Allen and dropped Williams that he's going to be throwing to himself. So it was, it was funny, but it's a serious concern if you're a Chargers fan.
Yep. Next up here, the next 3 picks on the board. Tennessee taking tackle Olaf Ushan. It's like tackle is locked for Tennessee, so that makes sense. Laiatu Latu, the edge rusher from UCLA. First defensive player, Allen.
Yes, I think, when you're looking at that roster, when you're looking at who's available, it makes sense. I mean, Latu is fantastic. His stock really rose towards the end of the season. And Atlanta's got offense right now. Like, Kirk Cousins came in, and all of their pieces are automatically better. Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Bijan's already a superstar. So I feel like they're good, but they need some defensive help. And I think while there are some enticing offensive weapons on the board, if you can get the best edge rusher, I think that's the move they make.
Yeah, I think they need to go defense because, I don't know how many years in a row you can go, like, skill position player, top 10 of the draft and, like, have a balanced roster. I think they have a lot of offensive pieces already.
I agree.
Yeah. Number 9, they have the Bears taking Rome Odunze, the receiver from Washington, which this will be not an ideal board for the Jets where you have the top 3 receivers, top 2 tackles off the board. So, with the Jet pick, I went Brock Bowers. I mean, it feels like the tea leaves are set up that they're going to take him. I know Peter Schrager is well connected to the Jets. He's basically nailed their picks the last 5 years in his mock. He gave them Bowers in his mock draft here. This is not ideal position value at number 10 because ideally you like a receiver on a rookie contract. But given the way the board is played here, I think Bowers position value wise is a good fit for the Jets because they need more weapons for Rodgers and he's the best one left there.
I think it's the pick you have to make if that's the way the board shakes out when it comes to that pick. And you could also trade back, but I don't think it's worth it. I think you grab Bowers there because he potentially could be one of the most impactful players this year on his first year. So I think with Rodgers on a limited run here, could be his last year, even though he says it might not be. I think you got to go Bowers and give him that big tight end.
Yeah, plus I know there's a little smoke going around. The Jets may poke around a trade up if, let's say Minnesota, we're going to talk about in a minute here, goes out to 4 and gets the quarterback, and Marvin Harrison is sitting there at 5. There's a little smoke with Jets may poke around, see if they can get up there.
Wow, combining Harrison with Garrett Wilson, the Buckeye combo, that'd be pretty insane.
That would be you add Mike Williams that receiver room, that would be one of the best trios in the NFL.
That'd be unbelievable.
Yep.
We'll see it when it happens, but it'd be nice to dream about.
Yeah, let's go to the next pick here with the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy at 11. This could well be a pick at 4 if the Vikings trade up here, but I do feel like J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota makes a lot of sense because Sam Darnold feels like your classic placeholder pick where, he's a guy, he's a top 3 former pick, get some upside, see if we can grow him. If not, J.J. McCarthy can step in, in the middle of the year.
Yep, I think it's a perfect fit. I think McCarthy's someone who won't be able to come in and start right away. So I think having him sit behind Darnold, who's an obvious lame duck, is a nice move. And I think, it'd be funny if he fell to 11. I don't think he will, but the Vikings would surely, if they don't trade up, snatch him up here.
Yeah, that's for sure. Let's go down the board a little bit here with some picks. Denver taking Jerzon Newton, DT from Illinois. Vegas, J.C. Latham, OT, Alabama. So both filling in the trenches here. These 2 teams, I feel like, also could be trade-up possibilities for a quarterback, depending on how the board plays out.
Yeah, and it depends how each of these teams values each of these guys. So there's 6 notable quarterbacks who could theoretically go in the first round. I don't think all 6 do, but I could see 5 of them going. And there's a couple teams here where if they value Penix or Nix really high, they'll just take them here without having to trade up. And while it seems crazy to think that Bo Nix will be taken, it's the nature of the league right now, and I wouldn't entirely be surprised.
Yeah, this is something. There's been smoke about Bo Nix to the Raiders at 13, so I know that there's a possibility.
That's exactly what I'm talking. Yeah,
these teams also I could see maybe if somebody values a edge rusher or a corner, maybe drop back a few picks and get your quarterback then, get a little extra draft capital.
I agree with that as well. It's a good take.
Yeah, so next set of picks here, New Orleans takes edge Jared Verse, started Albany of Florida State. Colts fill their secondary, Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, corner. Dallas Turner, Seattle, edge rusher, Terry Arnold, cornerback from Alabama, 17 to Jacksonville. Those Alabama defenders flying off the board here.
Yeah, and it's, any other year you could see a Dallas Turner or Jared Verse from Florida State or Terry Arnold going in the top 10, but there's so many quarterback needy teams, and this is one of the more quarterback rich drafts. These guys are falling a bit, but in other years I feel like they get drafted higher.
Yeah. 18, I think this is the pick I've seen every single mock everywhere. Cincinnati taking Byron Murphy from Texas, defensive tackle. They lost DJ Reader here. Apart from Caleb Williams at 1, this feels like the biggest lock of the draft.
Yeah, and if Newton were to fall, they could take him. But I think even though it's late to guarantee a pick, this is as close to a guarantee you'll see in the draft.
Yeah, the Rams back in the first round for the first time since 2016 when they took Jared Goff. So Chop Robinson.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. I hate to cut you off, but that's wild.
It's crazy, too, because they were in that F10 picks mode for years. They were just dealing off ones for either quarterbacks or like superstars.
Jalen Ramsey.
Ramsey was in there. Von Miller was in the mix for high pick. Stafford. So now they get a pick here, and it's a good time to have a one after Aaron Donald retired.
Yeah, Chop Robinson's a great fit there, and I do think they will go D-line edge rusher come their time in the draft.
Yeah. Next up here, next couple picks here. Pittsburgh takes Cooper Eon, the quarterback from Iowa. Miami takes Talise Funga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. Philly, Nate Wiggins, the corner out of Clemson here. And then here's a pick for the Eagles here because James Bradbury, we saw, declined a little bit, and Darius Slay was hurt for the Eagles last year. They do have some other needs on the line as well. So could go a few ways for Philly.
Yeah, I thought Philly would go with the best available at one of their dire needs. Wiggins is pretty solid. I think he was someone who preseason his stock was a little higher. But Philly has a way of taking these guys who slip in the draft and making them valuable. They did it with Jacoby Dean. They've done it with others. And I think that one thing they really want to shore up is defense. And that cornerback situation was exploited a little bit late in the season, like you said, with Bradbury. It's some fresh legs in that secondary, and I think they're going to need them. So I think they go cornerback, and I think Wiggins is a nice fit for them.
Yep, next picks here. Minnesota, we're assuming they're not going to have this pick, but if they did keep it, I gave them a lineman, Graham Barton from Duke, to kick the guard. This is the most interesting pick we had in the back end here. You gave Dallas Michael Penix from Washington at 24, and Dak's in a contract year. So what was the rationale behind that pick?
Well, the rationale is simple. I don't think Trey Lance is ever going to be a thing. I don't think many people do. I know Mike McCarthy is a fan of Trey Lance's, but Mike McCarthy may not be with this team next year. I think Penix is a solid, sure thing NFL quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be Mahomes or Burrow, but I think he will be in that second tier of quarterbacks who can get you to the dance, who can win games. And I think giving him a year to grow will be a really nice touch. And as a big Penix fan and as a big Giants fan, I would hate this combination. But I think this late in the draft, if he's still sitting there, Dallas would be foolish not to take Penix and put him on that roster, preparing for next year.
Is you're assuming that Dak Prescott leaves after next year with this pick?
So, yes. And I think Jerry will do drastic things if this team doesn't succeed. And I think one thing he will do to make a statement is not bring Dak back. Could be foolish. There's not a lot of reliable quarterbacks out there, but at the same time, how many times can Dak choke before a change is made? Jerry will still be the GM next year. So it's not like whoever he takes here, if it's a quarterback, will be someone else's pick. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, if he takes Penix here, regardless of who the head coach is next year, it's still Jerry's team. So there's no worrying about the new regime. If he takes Penix here, it doesn't matter who the head coach is next year. Penix is the quarterback. And that goes for anybody they take. So I'm pretty confident this is also a way to light a fire under Dak. So I think Penix here would be the move.
Yeah, if I had to pick, I would give Dallas an offensive lineman after Tyron Smith went to the Jets and they lost their center. But it'll be an interesting way if that plays out.
And Dallas always, they're struggling financially right now. They have to pay CD. They have to pay Parsons. It's getting a new quarterback and getting that set under the rookie contract, maybe the move they make as well.
Yep, so next couple of picks here, Green Bay offensive lineman Amarius Mims, a tackle from Georgia. Tampa has their secondary, Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, the corner. Arizona's second first-round pick, Darius Robinson, defensive tackle from Missouri. Buffalo at 28 after trading Stephon Diggs. You gave them Brian Thomas, the receiver from LSU. So I think this is clear. I think this is not as much as we said Cincy, Byron Murphy. Buffalo, the receiver, feels like a lock also.
It does, and you know what? There's no guarantee it'll be Thomas at that late in the draft. And you know how Buffalo is; they might have spotted something from somebody else, like a Lad McConkey or a Keon Coleman, that they like a lot better and could make the pick there. And they're not afraid of taking somebody earlier than their positional values. So really, it could be any number of guys, but I agree that I think it'll be a receiver. But I think Thomas would be a good fit with them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the route they go.
Yep, last 4 picks here. Detroit takes Braden Fisk, the defensive tackle from Florida State. Baltimore, Troy Fautanu, the offensive tackle from Washington. Sarah the offensive tackle, Tyler Guy from Oklahoma. Kansas City rounds out the first round with Ennis Rakestraw, the corner from Missouri, to replace the recently traded, I forget who the big name corner was that is traded away. So,
Right. Yeah, I mean, at that, when you're the Chiefs, you're just plugging and placing. So the draft doesn't, the draft is depth for you when you're the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think they're just going to slot in people at positions they need to grow a little bit. And I think could be, again, same thing with Buffalo and the wide receiver. It could be any one number of guys, but I think they go secondary at the end of the first round.
Yeah, they traded L'Jarius Sneed. The Titans going to pay him what he wanted on the open market. So that's something where you deal with the team with these elite quarterbacks, or eventually you got to remove on from some guys who could be in your core and draft the replacements.
Yep.
Yeah, and the last thing here, we talk about some trades in the top of the round here. I think the bottom of the first round could have a lot of potential teams trying to trade back in and get that team option for the 5th year for guys. So I look at Kansas City down there. Baltimore feels like a team to be willing to do that. Detroit has a pretty stacked roster, especially if you're looking for a team if Knicks or Penix hasn't gone yet. You could see a team jump in here, get that pick, and say, let's just have the guy with the ability to get the 5th year option.
Yeah, it's not a bad move. I just, you mentioned a couple quarterback needy teams. I feel like there's also, the Saints could be a sleeper for one of these quarterbacks. Like a team like that, especially a Bo Nix type who's not going to be ready to start day one in the NFL. They could be a team who tries to slide up and take someone like that. It just depends on who values who. And that's the thing about draft season. You're going to hear 10 different things about the same team and the same guys. So you never really know. It's going to be a fun night next Thursday, Mike.
Yeah, a very exciting night for sure here, Alan. Thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media. How can they do that?
So Twitter is Alan_Austin_. And Instagram is Alan Austin Sports. It's going to probably try to get a little bit more active on there, but Twitter's the way to go right now. And Mike, I really appreciate it. Really, really enjoyed coming on. And the folks at home, if you're not familiar with me, go back and listen to any of the Mike Flanagan themed Halloween episodes. Some good stuff there. And Mike, I know they just finished wrapping The Life of Chuck, so we should be talking about that in a few months here.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for them to put it on the calendar because I think it's in post right now. So,
yep.
Hopefully, I feel like Flanagan is aiming to get in that October window for a release date. So hopefully they're able to pull it off.
Absolutely. And one more thing for all those people out there who don't know me, diehard Detroit Tigers fan, go Tigers.
Yep, that sounds good. Early baseball season so far. We'll keep an eye on stuff. Alan, thanks all the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mike. Have a great one.